When it released 3 years back, Severance largely went under the radar. Whether this is due to other shows airing at the time or the fact that it happens to be sitting on one of the least popular streaming services, at least based on some numbers, is unclear. However, the show managed to deliver a clever, genre-hopping tour de force of tension and thrills, all wrapped up in this artistic, hedonistic view on work and play. Since its initial release, the show has exploded in popularity, with Apple actually staggering the release of season 2 for critics as well as audiences to keep suspense high and that water cooler chatter going around the mysteries each week. It's clear that Severance has become something of a cultural hit now, and the show is definitely self-aware of this year, almost to a fault. While this season is still engrossing with the same weird, hedonistic, artistic tone as before, the story is a bit more hit and miss. The show meanders through its relatively simple plotline, dragging out some narratives, while others are never really followed up on, all of which leading to an extended finale that's likely to divide a lot of the fan base. Despite the cliffhanger ending that concluded season 1, season 2 actually cuts to see our characters back in their innie forms, despite learning a bit about their outie counterparts. Helly's speech about how they're all being tortured in the Severance program has been swept under the rug, in the grand scheme of things at least, with Lumon enacting new policies across the company to make things a little easier for the workers, including breaks and a vending machine. Harmony Cobell is gone from her role too, although we do follow her journey across this season, including a slow, moody chapter where she returns home to visit family. However, more notably, Gemma is also gone from wellness, which is no longer in its usual spot, throwing Mark S into a tizzy as he sets out to try and find her. As a result of all this, Mr. Milchick has now been promoted to the manager for the floor, and alongside him we also see some of the senior management step up and show their faces in the spotlight. Mr. Drummond is one such figure here, and he oversees Milchick's work with a fine-tooth comb. However, the focus here is largely on Mark S and the two separate journeys that his innie and outie counterparts embark on. For our severed innie Mark, he's determined to find Gemma and figure out what's happened to her inside Lumon. He's also desperate to get his old co-workers back, as they've been replaced by new workers, alongside a young girl called Miss Huang, who steps into Milchick's previous role. As the season progresses, the gang do inevitably get back together again, but more mysteries are unveiled in the process. There's also a little bit more existential horror here too, with several episodes trying to channel a more minimalist, moody vibe and slow, atmospheric world building rather than developing the characters in deeper ways. Helly's outie is very much a part of Lumon here, which makes her inevitable reunion with the gang mired in suspicion right from the off. This is also a driving force for a lot of the early season tension, although all of this is eventually remedied during a retreat out into the wilderness in episode 4. Despite featuring a great ending here, this episode in particular perhaps exemplifies Severance season 2 in the most concise way. It has some good ideas, it's incredibly artistic and weird, but it also drags its heels for much of the chapter, deciding to double down on the strange imagery and mood and not doing very much to move the narrative forward. Emotion is definitely the name of the game in this season though, and we see that a lot with the various different characters that we follow. One such example here is Dylan. Now, for his services, Lumon reward him with taking part in an experimental area called the Family Visitation Suite. Here, innies can meet up with their outie family members in a bid to boost morale. In this case, Dylan meets his outie's wife, Gretchen. It's a storyline designed to explore the fascinating world of love, explore the idea of infidelity within a severed world, and reinforce how work can give one purpose. However, by the end of the season, this narrative doesn't really go anywhere, as Dylan returns to the same persona from the start of season 2, albeit with somewhat of a newfound purpose. Having said that, the real focus in this season, as I mentioned before, is Mark, and specifically in the way his outie and innie try to tackle the ongoing Lumon situation. For a lot of this season, communication is the driving force for the actions of both Marks, as they try to find ways to send messages to their counterparts. Whether it be letters in pockets or literally burning messages into one's retinas, the story never quite knows what it wants to do with this and eventually drops it in favour of a more elegant solution called reintegration. Now, this procedure is teased from the midway point onwards, and the idea here is that a severed individual is basically unsevered, with both versions colliding together. In essence, they would have full access to all of their memories formed by their innie and outie at all times, allowing both consciousnesses to basically become a whole person. Perhaps not quite the same, but I'd imagine the idea here is akin to the fusions that we see in Dragon Ball Z. The show makes a massive deal over this plotline, which consumes much of the second half of the show, and even has several cliffhangers at the end of chapters designed to highlight the importance of this, until it doesn't. You see, the series completely forgets this plot point, and by the finale, we see Mark acting completely irrationally, with no sign of his reintegration occurring anytime soon. And while it does pay off the earlier mystery around how Mark will communicate with himself and what's happened with Gemma, it doesn't do a particularly good job of juggling the plot lines around that and establishing reintegration as a genuinely thrilling plot point. One of the biggest culprits with season 2 though comes from the pacing. I feel like I say this a lot with Apple shows, but you really feel that with season 2 of Severance. For those who remember, season 1 was a tight-knit affair and made the most of every scene to develop the characters or the story. Here, this season is clearly designed to be more expansive and show a lot more POV chapters from different characters, but it doesn't always work. This is also where the self-aware tone comes into things, with little fourth wall breaks, more quirkiness and nods to the audience, all while sacrificing the tight-knit character dynamics that made the first season so refreshing. There are also a lot of moving parts now in Severance, with the focus not just on Mark's innies and outies, but also on Helly, Dylan and Irving, along with their counterparts outside. All of this before mentioning Milchick, the senior management, and Harmony Cobell. Perhaps a weird comparison to make here, but it does feel a bit similar to The Handmaid's Tale in the later seasons, which ping-ponged between different characters and ultimately lost the same tight-knit appeal that made it such a smash hit to begin with when it kept such a laser focus on one or two characters. Despite its flaws though, there's something undeniably gripping about Severance. The mysteries are teased for a while, but we do also get some answers here too. It's not like Yellow Jackets where every episode just meanders on completely pointlessly, and we do get an understanding in season 2 what this Cold Harbor project is, what the innies are working on in MDR, along with a better understanding around reintegration and how expansive this world is beyond the four walls of Lumon. All of this is great stuff, but season 2 also sacrifices some of that tighter character writing and pacey story elements too. One part of season 2 that remains a highlight comes from the sound and music. The orchestral score in the first season done an excellent job of capturing the weird, moody feel of the show, and season 2 thankfully follows suit too. And yes, the opening credits of this show are just as good as they were the first time around. Now, Severance is undoubtedly a unique proposition, and trying to usurp the near perfect first season was always going to be a tough ask. While the show fails to live up to what's come before, it does succeed in solidifying itself to be one of Apple's best shows. Everything now rests on season 3 though, which needs to be a smash hit to really solidify this as one of the best sci-fi shows and not another disappointing, fumbling mystery box that goes nowhere. But all in all, season 2 is a decent watch. It's not a bad season of TV, but it's not a particularly fantastic one either, making for a solid but not outstanding follow-up. Thanks for watching, and do let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Smash a like or subscribe to the channel, your support is very much appreciated. I'm Greg Wheeler, and from all of us over here at The Review Geek, we'll see you on the next video.